If you're looking to purchase or refinance a home, First Commerce Financial is a pure mortgage broker that works with several lenders to secure the best possible rate for you. Their mission is to provide transparent mortgage solutions to help you grow your overall net worth. That means you get a great deal on your home loan and receive 5-star level service along the way. They eliminate the junk fees associated with most mortgages, and they will also waive the appraisal fee for qualified borrowers if you mention you heard them here on Warchant. First Commerce Financial invites you to call 248-207-2404 or visit firstcommercefinancial.com. Licensed in Florida, Michigan, Arizona, and California. Welcome into the Warchant.com report. Great to be with you as always, presented by our friends at First Commerce Financial. The Noles get a win against Louisiana Monroe, and a thrilling one at that. Next up, Virginia on the ACC Network, 7:30 in prime time, Scott Stadium. Cavaliers obviously excited, licking their chops for this football game. The Noles get that 1-point victory over Louisiana Monroe. Felt an awful lot like a loss. So, Gene, I'll start with you. We talk about the low points in Florida State football history in recent memory anyhow. We can all go back to the humiliating 30-0 loss, obviously, that took place against Wake Forest back in 2006. But where this program sits currently, I don't know. Are we about to surpass those lows? Are we entering into that realm now where we felt as we did back in 06, 07?
I think we've redefined rock bottom, Jeff. We thought that was rock bottom back in 2006, but you got to remember that was an 11-win team that won the ACC. Now blowouts are pretty custom around here when you're playing quality competition. So I think FSU's in the sub-basement right now. I can't imagine it getting much lower. I guess if you go 2-10, it may be a little bit lower, but by all intents and purposes, and one of the things I like to look at is where does FSU rank nationally right now? Well, you see different. After 25, we really don't know too much. But I like to look at the Vegas ones because all the biases and people looking at the helmets and the uniforms is thrown out. So I looked in their latest power rankings, and I think one of the big bookmakers out there, they had FSU 95 on that list. Below such teams as Nevada, Charlotte, and Willie's former team, Western Kentucky. They're all below those teams right there in terms of that. I think you can make an argument right now this may be the worst defense in the Power 5. It's really hard to get much lower, Jeff. I think by all intents and purposes, we've hit it. Rock bottom.
Nowhere to go but up. There you go. So
I disagree completely.
Oh, really, Ira?
I was going to do this.
Really?
I'm going to serve it up. I was actually just about to say, Gene, I'm not so sure.
But that felt like a loss. To all intents and purposes, they're 0-3.
Oh, I'm with you.
0-2. They'll be 0-3. Yeah, but here, or would have been, coming up. I think they can get blown out in prime time on Saturday.
But we expect that.
Yeah, but if you get beat 56-10 or something like that to Virginia, I don't know. I mean, I think we can get lower. I mean, 2-10. You referenced a possible 2-10 record. I think it's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, it was an ugly loss. There's no question, and it may be an
ugly win. They won the game out.
It may be a defining moment, a defining win in the wrong way, just like that 30-0 Wake Forest game was, which led to the resignation of Jeff Bowden and kind of the turnover of the coaching staff. But to me, the difference here is in these first two games, you can't say Florida State's players have given up or quit. They're playing hard. They're just not playing smart. They're not playing well. To me, rock bottom would be if these kids are done with this coaching staff and if they just stop playing, stop competing. It could get much worse. And if that happens, again, that signals the end of Willie Taggart's tenure because you really can't come back from that. So I think this is bad from a program standpoint, but I think what we've seen could be worse, especially if they go and lose bad at Virginia. I think you're going to have a lot of kids, especially the older kids, just completely checking out.
Well, and to that end, I guess we could say offensively they're moving the football. You look at it statistically speaking, they're vastly improved from where they were a season ago. Right now the defense is absolutely abysmal. That's actually kind, calling them abysmal. Anybody gets whatever they want via the air or the ground. Doesn't really matter. They can attack Florida State any way they want. But offensively, Florida State continues to move the football. So maybe, just maybe, that's your fighting chance that the hope you grasp onto. If quit happens, and then these blowouts get absolutely more one-sided, and all of a sudden the games are 56-0 or something like that, I suppose you could stoop lower. But at the end of the day, you got to put yourself in the shoes of David Coburn now, and let's ask the questions. Because I don't know. I mean, we can, if we want, we can relive how we arrived at this place. Jimbo Fisher, towards the end of his time, obviously kind of turned his back on the university. There was real resentment towards the boosters and to the athletic program. He was going through a tumultuous time in his own life, his personal life, through a divorce, obviously the very unfortunate situation with his youngest child being ill. And I think it all added up to him needing to reset and get out of here, and he did. All right, so that's how we arrived at this place. One of the things that happened along the way was he stopped making kids go to class. So the APR falls to an FBS low. Willie comes in and he can't boot kids out of the locker room that he maybe wants to boot because of that APR score. So he needs guys. He tries to cajole them. He puts his arms around them, and I think that was a mistake in retrospect. Now all of a sudden they think they're his equal. They don't listen to him. Now you have a problem where there's no buy-in. Guys aren't fearing discipline. The messaging is inconsistent, Gene. So it all adds up to the current mess. I'm glossing over some things I know in the interest of time. But now this is our reality. He's not done a good job to change the culture. He's not doing a good job on the field. They look disorganized on a consistent basis. David Coburn is a money guy right now. As an athletic director, he's had to come in and slash the budget and obviously change things. That doesn't exactly engender goodwill amongst the athletic department. But what do you do if you're in need of making a change at the end of this year, Gene? Can they? What kinds of things are being talked about behind closed doors right now?
Well, boy, I wouldn't want his job, that's for sure. You said putting yourself in his shoes. Man, I would not want to be there right now. Money is flying out the door. Booster contributions are down. Season ticket sales are just abysmal right now, and it's only going to get worse. Especially if we talk about if we have the scenario where there's a blowout, what's the attendance going to be like? I mean, they didn't do FSU any favors with a 3:30 kickoff this Saturday, another hot afternoon game. Not very good for Florida State. I'm going to shoot first thing. I'm going to plan for the worst, hope for the best. Do you hope things start turning around? End of the season, they show some improvement. Great, you can go on with the Willie Taggart era. But I think at this point, you absolutely need a plan for the worst. So I'm getting a search committee together right now. And you can do, there's ways you can do that and circumvent the sunshine law so it's not public. Have him go out there, put some feelers out to some agents, see who's available. And then he can, behind closed doors, come up with salary requirements. So if it comes to that, and you end up 2-10, 3-9, and you have to make a change at the end of the season, you make the change like that because you can't wait around nowadays because that early signing period, because of recruiting and everything else that goes on. So you need to be ready for that. And the other thing I'm going to do is get my big money boosters together. Jeff, you probably heard it. I know it. All the big money people are burning up John Thrasher's phone. They're burning up David Coburn right now. They're mad. They want changes to happen. Say, okay, you want those changes? Put your money where your mouth is. We got a big buyout to take care of right now. So put that money down because financially it's hard for us to afford to pay, what is it, $17 million right now?
Well, and probably more than that if you consider the other coaches you'd have to buy out total on the staff. It gets up over $20 million.
Yeah, so it's ugly right now. You need a lot of infusion of cash. So those people that want to be part of the program, there you go. There's your opportunity right now. So I'm putting all that in play. Hopefully that doesn't come to fruition and things turn around, but man, you better be prepared for it.
Short of that extreme, is there anything you can do in season? A lot of people wonder, Harlan Barnett has obviously failed miserably. Could you do anything, demote him? Of course, that leaves him as a lame duck coach in the eyes of the players, but they're not listening to him anyhow, and the scheme is a disaster at this point. There's no consistency to what they're trying to execute. You can run right through the A-gap if you like. Quarterbacks can run free. You can throw the football if you like. You can pretty much do anything you want. So maybe there's no harm in actually just making a change within the staff. You have a former head coach on your staff on the defensive side of the ball. Is there anything they can do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think that they kind of need to figure out a way, if there's anything they can do to salvage the season. I get Gene's point and the idea of preparing for the worst, and I think that's valid. But the problem is once that kind of leaks out, it always leaks out. I mean, it leaked out that they want to get rid of Les Miles a year and a half before they ended up firing Les Miles. And those kinds of things, Kevin Someone at Texas A&M, that was leaked out. So it's just hard to keep that under wraps, and everything falls apart. And Florida State really needs this to not fall apart this season because of John Thrasher entering probably his last year as president, David Coburn likely tied with him. So you'd really not want to have to make a change this season. So from that standpoint, I do think they're going to try to figure out how, just like bringing in Kendall Briles and Randy Clements and Ron Dugans, they're trying to figure out a way to make this work. As far as changing defensively, I don't know that Harlan Barnett's the problem. I do think this. From a strategic standpoint, I think they need to find 6 or 7 plays that worked last year for them defensively that the kids know and that they can run and just be very vanilla. And I know Harlan Barnett talked last week about simplifying things, but I really think that's what they've got to do. They've got to do something that these kids are confident in running. It may not work against every offense. It may not work against every system, but something that they can hold on to. Because when you watch that defense right now, I think they all just look lost. I think they spend all offseason working on a 3-4. That gets scrapped. They go to more of a 4-3 the next week. where do you go from here? They need to give them something that they can hang on to.
Well, the problem is your head coach is saying they need to throw more things at him, not less things. The messaging, again, the inconsistencies here. I understand why you said you're not sure Harlan Barnett's the problem. Because surely the man understands football. But Ira, he's the defensive coordinator of the worst defense in football. He's the problem.
I think the problem was, to me, they had personnel issues, but I also think that it was ill-conceived to try to be a multiple defense in year 2.
And who made that decision ultimately?
That's what I'm saying. That's the question.
We're not, not entirely certain right now. It speaks to an absolute unmitigated disaster at this point. Let's talk about the team we're going to face. We'll talk about that next when we come back to the Warchant.com report. We'll preview Virginia.
Did you hear that? That is the sound of Florida State football. Be ready, Noles. You bleed it, now own it. Check out Tallahassee's #1 store for FSU gear, Garnet and Gold. Locally owned for over 40 years, turn to their team to bring you the finest selection of spirited apparel and merchandise for every fan. They're always happy to see you and always happy to serve you. Visit their flagship store at 1504 Governor Square Boulevard, the campus shop over on West Pensacola, or if you're on the north side of town at 1400 Village Square Boulevard, and always on the web at garnetandgold.com. Garnet and Gold, a Tallahassee tradition you can depend on. If you're a Seminole, they're your store. Go Noles!
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report presented by First Commerce Financial. Let's take a look here at the Virginia Cavaliers, who come into the game 2-0, of course. They win their first game against Pitt, 31-14. It was a brief scare at 14-13. Then they went on from there to dominate the football game. I think it was 30-14. Check that. And then they went over William and Mary. Lopsided affair. Not a lot you can glean from that, 52-17. One thing I can say, if we look big picture at Virginia, Bronco Mendenhall has seen this group, if you look at the advanced analytics, go from that awful first season to where they're in the 90s, somewhere in that ranking in the S&P. All the way now, you see a group coming into that top 40. And this is what he does. He builds programs through development and discipline. They are certainly that. They're not dynamic athletically, but they do have a dynamic player. And you're going to talk about Bryce Perkins, the quarterback, who really is a great threat to run the football, obviously, as a rusher. Pretty good passer as well. When he's not doing that, Tallahassee, the running back, is a nice 1-2 punch that they provide there. They get Reed and DuBois at wide receiver, who are their frequent targets. So talk a little bit about Bryce Perkins, though, because I think he's the guy that's going to give Florida State the biggest trouble.
He really is. He's a true dual-threat quarterback. And, last season threw for over 25 yards, had over 25 touchdowns, and over 900 rushing yards. And a little trivia question for you, Jeff. Since 2000 in the ACC, 2 other quarterbacks have done that.
What was the number again, by the way?
Let's go again. 2,500 passing yards, 25 throwing touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, and over 900 rushing yards. Another guy that plays for the Baltimore Ravens right now, Lamar Jackson. Yeah. So that's pretty good company right now. Not saying he's quite to that level, but I think he's a guy that would get a lot more national attention right now if there wasn't that guy over at Clemson with the long hair that everybody seems to be obsessing about. He's pretty good too, but this is a really good dual-threat quarterback. He's going to run doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. He's not going to be testing you vertically too much. But, man, that short passing game, he's very accurate. He mixes that up with some RPO, runs around real well. It's going to be a real tough matchup for any defense, especially for this defense.
If you remove sack yardage, to your point, he averages over 6.2 yards per carry. So when they run him,
he's a leading rusher right now.
Yeah, he's very successful. Who else should we look for on that Virginia offense?
They have some nice experienced receivers. There's nobody that you look at and say, oh, they've got that guy that you just have to tailor everything defensively other than Bryce Perkins. I think Joe Reed they got a couple of senior receivers, Joe Reed and Dubois. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but they have 2 nice senior receivers. They've got a stable of running backs. They actually will rotate a couple different guys. They've got a freshman in Hollis. They've got some nice weapons, but I think it's a system. They're at the point now where they have a system in place, and you have to defend everything. And they can kind of like we've seen here at times where when the offense is functioning well, you can't just lock up one position or one segment group or one player. They've got a lot of different things they can beat you with, and if all else fails, as you guys said, Bryce Perkins can make you pay.
Well, as you might expect, if you switch over to the defensive side of the ball, any team coached by Bronco Mendenhall is going to improve over time, and they've done exactly that. If you just look at the record, for example, they were 2-10, then followed that up by a 6-7 season, 8 wins a year ago, along with a bowl win, 9 wins. That's a team that obviously is getting better as we go along, and part of that shift has been how much better they are on defense. They're very consistent. They tackle exceptionally well. Unlike Florida State, they're incredibly disciplined, Gene. This is a group, I guess, where would you look for Florida State to have success? If we look big picture here, the one thing that is working for Florida State's offense, Florida State is their offense. I went back and watched the Pitt game, the Virginia Pitt game.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia is lacking elite skill players. They aren't a fast team. Florida State does have an advantage at the skill positions. And if you're able to win first down and win with tempo, you can get some one-on-one matchups with Florida State's receivers and running backs against a slower defense. Fundamentally sound defense, but not elite athleticism. That would be my guess. Feel free, either one of you, to weigh in here where you think Florida State might have success against Virginia's defense.
Well, I do think, and speaking of Bronco Mendenhall, I think we think back to when Florida State went out to BYU and faced his team out there and had an advantage. Nobody thought Florida State was going to win that game.
That's right.
But Florida State had much more speed and athleticism and kind of overwhelmed them. So that could be in play. You got to think Florida State has an advantage there that certainly William and Mary didn't have, and you wouldn't think Pitt did either. But they are sound. They're not going to beat themselves.
8 returning starters on defense.
Boise State. I mean, they against Pitt, they gave up about 2.5 yards a carry. They had 4 sacks. They didn't give up a lot of passing yards. I think it was like 4 yards per pass attempt, which is really nice. Like 3.5 yards per play. I mean, they're a solid defense. And so Florida State, I do agree they have the speed and the weapons. Tamari and Terry Kingmakers can win some matchups. But you've got to be on point. You can't turn the ball over like we've seen recently.
And my point of that, the problem I'm having here, besides all the mistakes, is I think you can be very one-dimensional. They're very good against the run. I think they ranked 15th nationally against the run. Pitt only had, I think, 79 rushing yards against them. It's going to be really difficult to implement this offense for 4 quarters without getting some effectiveness out of the running game. Now, I agree. I think you can go ahead if you can be efficient in that short passing game. I think you can get some matchups here. But, I mean, to consistently do that, being one-dimensional for a whole game, that's going to be a good call. And plus, they have Bryce Hall, who's going to be one of the top cornerbacks in the country. I saw one projection where he's going to be one of the top 10 picks in the next draft. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch him and Terry go at it.
It's also the first road game. So we got to see how communication is, how James Blackman performs on the road. I mean, there's a lot of variables here that don't really point to a big offensive performance.
Well, I thought it was interesting. I was watching Warchant.com, and our friend Aslan asked Kendall Briles about whether or not just having the hand signals and not having a playbook and just being able to signal plays was an advantage, and he didn't seem to say necessarily that it was. He seemed like a guy who was not real sure. I thought he would say resoundingly yes, but he's not real sure, so we'll see.
And the point of that is there's not as much communication at the line of scrimmage in this offense as there was under Jimbo Fisher.
That's true.
And that became a challenge a lot of times when they would go on the road. But it's still playing on the road. And I think the apprehension I think we sense from Kendall Briles is
he doesn't know
no idea how these guys are going to handle that.
Yeah. Especially if they face some adversity, because this is a group that, let's be honest, the second they face any adversity, you can it's like the fetal position. We're done here. 3 keys to victory here. I'm going to say what I'm always going to say. If we talk about Florida State winning a football game these days, any football game, it's going to be that they have to score a lot of points. Well, one of the ways that they can score a lot of points is to win first down. They've got to win the majority of their first downs and stay ahead of the chains. That's when this offense works. When it doesn't, when they fail on first down, I'm not even talking about negative plays. I'm talking about 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, those kinds of situations. This offensive line cannot stand up to 2nd and 3rd and obvious. When defenses know you've got to throw the football and you're not in a running situation, this offensive line is not talented enough. They will not hold up. There will be sacks, James will make mistakes, and the crowd will get into it, and this will snowball. So that would be my key to the victory.
I'll take it to the other side of the ball. The interesting thing about Virginia, I looked at, they're top 10 in the country in time of possession. They have been consistent the last couple of years. They're also very good at converting third downs, which kind of flip side for Florida State, it's been really weak on that thing. So I think from that perspective, you got to get them in 3rd and long situations as much as you can, and then stop them when you get those opportunities, which they've suffered at. And I'll also say with Bryce Perkins, you just cannot let him run free in this game. If you let him get out in the edges and run all day, it's going to be a really long day for that defense.
Anything to add to that, Ira?
I mean, obviously, Bryce Perkins is a key. To me also, we touched on it earlier, how they handle adversity. The 2 ways you can avoid getting too much adversity, one is take the crowd out of it if you can. It's going to be a night game on the road. If you can get a big play on special teams, something early to kind of take the crowd out of it, I think that would be huge. The other thing is, and James Blackman talked a lot about it earlier this week, you can't have turnovers. I mean, this defense does not respond to adversity. Against ULM, all 3 times that the offense turned the ball over, ULM went right down and scored a touchdown. That's what's going to happen if you turn the ball over. FSU cannot turn the ball over in this game.
No, I think they're going to have to play a near-perfect game offensively to win because I don't think the defense is going to get stopped. So we're going to end up watching. If Florida State is to pull a shocker, Florida State's going to have to win the game in a high-scoring affair. And it's hard to envision a way that happens, but I suppose it is certainly possible. When we come back, we'll talk about the significance of this game as it pertains to the program moving forward, the rest of this season. There are a lot of implications that ride on this game on Saturday night. We'll also take a good look at the picks, in which I was awful last week. I'm in dire need of rebound. These guys had to revel in the blank show I threw out there last week. That's all next on the Warchant.com report.
Make it simple, Seminole fans. Subscribe to the Warchant.com YouTube channel for instant access to unbeatable analysis. We're talking 50 years of combined experience covering Florida State athletics, unmatched digital storytelling, including exclusive access with the recruits you need to know, and your daily dose of all things Garnet and Gold with Wake Up Warchant. That's only the tip of the spear. The Warchant.com message boards continue to be the most active and passionate community of Seminole fans anywhere and feature insider information you won't find anywhere else. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 for a free 30-day trial to see why Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report, brought to you by First Commerce Financial. If you're looking to purchase or refinance a home and want to secure the best possible rate, all while saving money without sacrificing service, give First Commerce Financial a call today at 248-207-2404 or visit firstcommercefinancial.com. Mention you heard them here on the Warchant.com report. Welcome back to the Warchant.com report, brought to you by First Commerce Financial. And this, our final segment, we'll talk about the magnitude of this game. Florida State's only a 7-point underdog, and what we see on Saturday evening can certainly dictate the way this season goes, the way this team plays for the remainder of the games, and certainly our attitudes towards the program and what needs to happen next. Big picture, Gene, I'll start with you. Let's talk about the significance of Saturday. What has to happen for people to still be invested in this team moving forward?
Well, obviously a win would be huge for this program, beating a ranked team on the road as the first two games look. But let's be realistic about it. I don't think any of us, we're going to make our picks here in a minute. I'd be shocked if any of us are picking Florida State in this one. Is this, and I want to kind of throw it back to you guys, is this a rare instance where there could be a quote-unquote quality loss? I mean, if you go up there, you're competitive for four quarters, the defense shows improvement, you limit mistakes, guys don't fold up in penalties, and this goes down to the wire. Do we say, hey, that's really positive? These guys, as Ira said, they're not giving up. They've got some fight left in them.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, that would show an invested team. That would show adjustments. That would show fight. That would show belief. That would show in one another and the coaching staff. All these things would have to be on display for them to be in a close game on the road on Saturday night.
Yeah, and I think it would also give those defensive players reason to keep believing. And that, hey, okay, we got off to an awful start.
Yeah, figuring it out.
We made some improvements. These coaches are putting us in a better situation. They're figuring it out. We made some personnel changes, as Willie Taggart hinted to earlier this week. I think that would get guys going a little bit. Maybe the fan base wouldn't care if you lose at Virginia. They're not interested in moral victories. But I think inside the team, it would be huge. It would give them a chance to kind of get more time to get the players to buy in.
And I'm an eternal optimist. I want to believe that that's possible. I mean, I'm not ready for this to be over. I would love to see this team show some fight and for the coaches to put these kids in a position to succeed. It's not healthy for Florida State's football program to have to fire a coach in 18 months or 24 months. It's just not good. Nobody wants to see that. We're hoping that it doesn't come to this. At the same time, the three of us, I like to believe, are pragmatists. We're realists. What if it does happen? What if they go up there and they get beat 56-17? What if they're not competitive and the defense goes through the motions and they show signs of quitting? Then what does it mean?
Well, it means next week we're going to talk a lot of Florida State basketball and soccer. That's probably what we ought to be doing at that point. But I got to say, if that happens, if the worst case scenario, which is a very realistic scenario, that they do get blown out of Virginia, I think it's almost, for all intents and purposes, the season's over, and I think this coaching staff's tenure's over. I just don't see them bouncing back after three horrible games in a row. And as to Ira's point again, I think at that point, I think you start losing the players. I can almost guarantee you're going to start losing recruits. I'm surprised there hasn't been an official. I know we've had some feedback from some recruits. They're rethinking their decision. I think the decommitments start happening like crazy at that point, and everything just starts to unravel.
Heartbreaking to think about that scenario playing out. Let's get to the picks, where, as I mentioned, teased in the break, I was 1-5 last week. Not a good selection. Gene picks the card. I would not have picked those games.
So would you, when you got the one win, were you dancing like you just got a 1 point win to go for
Truthfully,
ULM?
I forget what we pick on this show, even though I value
Don't
this
try to
moment.
downplay your 1-5.
No,
Come
because
on.
the
To
games,
be better than that.
the games I actually bet on, as opposed to the ones we're just picking here. Come on now.
Come on. We expect more from
I didn't pick the card.
Own those
Went
picks.
with Carolina. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Again, I've been riding the Mac Brown train every week.
I had
do.
Mac Brown the first week, not you, and then you realized I was right and jumped on it.
Oh,
I'm
you
proud
got
of
me.
you. Yeah.
Just to clarify, we do make these picks early in the week, which is difficult. And
is
then also on
difficult.
top of that, you're not getting to pick the games you choose.
No,
Those are set by
thank you,
the
Ira,
games.
for that.
So
Thank
it's
you for making
fair.
excuses for me. I appreciate that. You went 3-3 last week. Nice 500
Which is
effort.
a lot better than a
You would have lost
1-5.
money to the deal.
But it's so much better than
And then
1-5.
Gene would have won some money. He went 4-2. Well done, sir. I lost my shirt, shoes, the whole deal. North Carolina, the resurgent North Carolina Tar Heels, Mac Brown telling me and everybody else that laughed at the hire, you can go to hell, guys. I'm 2-0 with wins over South Carolina and Miami. Wow, he's got to believe it in Chapel Hill. Do they get another win? Rivalry matchup against Wake Forest. Wake is giving 3. Your thoughts?
Said before, I'm riding the train, man, until Sam Howell and them all prove me wrong. Man,
It's a
I'm gonna go.
Thursday night
They are going to be. I think they're turning into a football school, Jeff.
Oh, my goodness gracious. They are playing Thursday night, by the way.
Yeah.
So this is.
You don't go into Snuggy Hill
You don't go
on a
into-
Thursday
don't
night.
do that, no.
And think, sorry, Mac.
We
this
know
isn't
from
the
experience.
old-
Yeah, the Thursday night road games.
This is not the old Snuggy Hill, Mac Brown. This is a new day, and I'm taking Wake.
Wow.
I mean, I'm taking Wake, and I'll give the 3.
I'm going to take the 3 points. I think it comes down to the wire in an ACC Classic. We're all going to be talking about this one for years to come, guys. It's going to be an all-timer there, a little 27-26 type game. I can't
So
wait.
they still might be celebrating with the wine and cheese on the hill after
On
the
the
game.
hill, but
Just didn't cover.
Ooh, breathe a sigh of relief, and then I'm celebrating with those 3 points. All right, Penn State has looked good. They pull away, covered the 29 points last week against Buffalo. None of you guys care about that, but I did. They're giving 17 to Pitt right now. Pitt looks awful. What's going on with Pitt? A lot of people thought they could win the Coastal. Your thoughts? Minus 17 for Penn State.
This is one. Can I just pass on this one?
You cannot, sir. You
That's
put
it.
the card.
You
I
put
don't
it in
like
here.
this
You
one.
put it in here. You should have picked
I
another
don't
game.
like that one. Well, it's a crap schedule this week. There aren't many good games. I'll go with Penn State. Just like you said, Pitt's looked awful. Penn State looks pretty good.
And Penn State's good at home, so I'll give 17.
I've always said you throw out the records
Oh,
when
these
Penn
two-
State
Oh,
and
big
Pitt
rivalry
get
there.
together. Yeah, no, I know it's a rivalry Saturday in September, but I'm going to take the points. I cannot believe that Pitt is this bad. I mean, they seem to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
I thought Narduzzi
They
really
won the
had
Coastal last year.
It's just it's a bit bizarre, but I'm going to take Pitt.
UCF minus 7. That's a robust number against Stanford. Although Stanford, to the backup quarterback, looked horrible in their last game against Southern Cal. Stanford's well coached. That's a lot of points. I have a hard time with this. 7? You want to lay the 7?
What a weird matchup. I mean, Stanford at UCF. I mean, I don't know. Do they still have Christian McCaffrey? Is he still there?
No.
Okay.
He's cashing checks on Sunday.
I think this is one of those. I mean, they're so much wanting national respect, Central Florida, and this is one of their chance to play a traditional Power 5 team. They got them at home. I hate to do it, man, but give me the Knights here.
Minus 7.
No insight at all, except that I know every time I think Stanford's done, they have a bad loss, and I think they're going the
back
wrong
to
direction. They come back and play well, so I'm going to go with Stanford. And it's just the points. If it was 3 or 4, I'd go with UCF, but 7 points is a lot.
I'll do the points as well. I'll take Stanford plus 7. Gene's got a chance to get over on us with that one. Here we go. Florida, Kentucky. What a rivalry this has turned into. Kentucky's getting 8.5 points at home. Mark Stoops, you got to talk to your boys. That's humiliating. Vegas thinks you guys are garbage. Your thoughts, Florida? Giving the 8.5
Probably
points.
going with my heart here. I probably
You
should.
are
I
clearly
should be
doing
know what
that.
I'm doing
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I just remember that last game up there where they gave the game away, but they usually play them close up there. So I'm give me Kentucky.
The line should be, how many times does Kentucky leave a Florida receiver wide
Wide open
Yeah.
to score. Wide open.
And I'd probably take the over on that. But I'm going to take Kentucky in the points.
I'll take Florida and give the 8.5. I think they win by 3 touchdowns. Clemson is at Syracuse. Syracuse. What happened? Maryland beat the brakes off of Dino Babers' squad this past Saturday. Never competitive. Syracuse has looked terrible after an amazing 10-win season a year ago. I talked to Dino Babers at the ACC meetings, and he was really high on his club. He's got to be scratching his head wondering what's going on here. Syracuse is getting 27.5 points at home.
That might have been the most perplexing game I saw. I just don't get it.
They weren't competitive in any facet.
Was it Maryland last year that blew the doors off of Texas early last season,
2 years ago. They beat Texas last year as well. They beat them back to back.
Remember, you ought to be betting on Maryland early in the season. I guess that's kind of the trend they're setting
Loxley's
right
got them rolling right now.
You know what? This is one. Go ahead and give me Syracuse because here a couple of reasons. Clemson had what they thought was their big matchup last week. They're having a sigh of relief.
Run through them.
Syracuse, I think, it had to be a little bit of an aberration. They're at home. We know that's a tougher place to play. They play Clemson tough. So, yeah, that's a lot of points. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Syracuse.
I'll take Syracuse, too. I would love that number if we could get to 28.5 as opposed to 27.5. But I will take Syracuse as well.
Yeah, I'll take Syracuse in the points. Just an obscene amount of points.
Now to the game that we've been trying to avoid, at least as it pertains to our picks. Virginia given 7.5. I'm going to take Virginia giving the points, first of all. I think all three of us will do that, right? Giving the points. And now you want a total? Anybody want to throw out a total here?
Yeah.
You guys want to get at?
I think the defense is going to stand up for Florida State, holding to 38.
So 38 to what?
38-20.
All right. I'll take Virginia to win 45 to 17.
I'm bullish on this Harlan Barnett defense. 34-21.
34-21.
All right, so we all three have Virginia winning easily, and that will make for an interesting show the following week. 34-21 might give us a measure of hope.
Your call,
buddy. 34 points, that's a
call.
pretty good offense. I think that would be something to hang your hat on.
34, giving up 34.
Giving up 34.
Against a pretty good offense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Always surrendering 34 points.
If we lose 34 to 21, Aslan, you're the tiebreaker. 34-21, you got hope for the following week?
No.
No. Okay. All right.
Even the eternal optimist says no.
The eternal optimist.
Speaking of Aslan, for Gene, for Ira, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you the next time on the Warchant.com report.